All right, guys, so welcome to another episode of the Imperfectly Perfect podcast. And today we have got Axel Whitehead, the incredible guy. I'm going to run down his bio because he's had an amazing career, and I was fortunate enough to ask him to come on the campaign, and there was no hesitation. So he's very outspoken about his mental health advocacy. But let's take it back. He's an Australian TV host, singer, musician, and actor. He's had an incredible career, as I said, including hosting things such as Video Hits, The World's Strictest Parents, formerly hosted a game show called The Wall. He also played Liam Murphy in Channel 7's Home and Away, which for anyone out there knows that Home and Away is one of the biggest soaps in Australia. I would say the world, really. I'm British, and I grew up watching Home and Away. It's massive. He debuted his music career with the release of his first solo album, Losing Sleep, in 2008. Furthermore, went on to the US, where he began playing the role of Davis, a musician, in the Showtime series Shameless. British version, mate. I did love. US, still good, but I'm British through and through.
Yeah. Hear that bit.
In several more hit shows in the US, including the incredible Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Recently returning to Australia, saw him head back to the screens on Australia's other hit soap, Neighbours. So welcome to the show, Axel, mate.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much. This is such a beautiful conversation, and you've done such a good job, man. Such a good job. And as it's interesting when you start that conversation, just how people go, "Oh, I've got a secret. Oh, actually, I can do this." And it starts to snowball, man. This is something that does not discriminate. We're all humans. It's part of the human condition. So yeah, congratulations to you, bro. You've done incredible work, man.
Thank you, mate. And I appreciate you coming on when I reached out to you that time, because I know we was going backwards and forwards with schedules, and when you finally came, you got to it. And first of all, I always ask a lot of people, what, out of all the campaigns and everything, what drew you to the campaign in itself?
It's something. I mean, when someone reaches out for a campaign or a charity or something like that, it's usually quite specific and targeted to an area, whether it be people that are affected by cancer or people that are affected by sexual abuse or I mean the Red Cross, which is a lot broader. But with mental health, it doesn't discriminate. It affects everyone, and I think in the last sort of 10 years, it's certainly become a conversation that is coming to the forefront, and people are comfortable about talking about it, and they're understanding that it is just like physical health. It's like emotional health. It's like everything. If you've got a busted leg, you go to the doctor. If you've got something, a thought process or a behavior pattern, you go and see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor. It is as important as any physical health. So it's just, I just thought you were doing an incredible thing, and there was just this innate kind of impulse to get involved.
Well, it took me back to the day that we met. So for anyone listening there, just to put it in context, so I asked people to go into kind of their safe zone and take them back to a space for a few moments so I can photograph them and get that one shot that captures their image. Firstly, I'll say, what was your response seeing yourself look vulnerable in an image like that? Because often when you're an actor, you can have still shots, but otherwise it's very glossy in a magazine or anything like that. So that would be my first question. And then second, what was it like when I asked you to, because I can remember so vividly, I literally put you in a box where I turned some music on, your favorite song that took you to a space. And
That's
afterwards
right.
I came back in the room and you was like, whew, I just needed that. So what was...
So the first part of the question, sorry, what was that again?
What was your response when you saw your vulnerability?
That's right. I suppose the vanity side of me was like, what's the difference between me acting crying and me actually being vulnerable? And it was quite similar. I mean, obviously when you're acting, you're trying to draw on something. I suppose, I mean, it wasn't sort of, I suppose one of the things as a man, we often try and, I did see myself trying to cover up that vulnerability. I'd let it out, then I'd go, and try and be stoic and then let it out and then kind of rub it off, or like, no, no, everything's right.
Yeah.
And probably catching myself in that cycle of actually going, hey, it's okay to be, it's just like, it's another emotion. It's like laughing, but it's crying.
Yeah.
I mean, socially there's a difference, but sort of technically as an emotion, there's no difference. So catching myself trying to cover that, I suppose, something that popped out. As far as the song and that moment, through my sort of mental health struggles and addiction and a bunch of different things, part of the process is, um, I don't know if we're born with it or if it's nature or nurture. If it's part of our childhood or trauma or situations that can certainly draw it out, or if that if that's caused. When my two older brothers, they went away to boarding school when I was young, and then I was kind of I was sort of on the farm by myself, and my dad would be working and my mum would be doing her thing. And there was a sort of sense of loneliness as a kid at times. And that sort of listening to this song, it sort of took me back to that. And as sort of I've done different therapies and bits and pieces, part of the technique is to try and find the source of what that pain is, or why we keep on repeating a behavior pattern, or what causes it. And yeah, I suppose loneliness, as a kid at times, that was sort of something that triggered that song and that moment that you gave me.
Mm. Isn't it amazing how something that I did some inner child work lately through this campaign, and it's
Yeah, right.
amazing that you can suppress something that you wouldn't think of now, that you've held so dear, and it comes out in later life. And you're like,
Isn't it
whoa.
unbelievable
I
how the
got something when
human.
I was 4 years old, and I had to ask my parents, what was it? And they said, you was a happy child, I don't know. And then the lady I was doing it with said, it can be something literally as we would think it's insignificant, moving up a year in school, but you could have built so much angst up moving that you could have just buried it. And then now it's come back to surface. And I was like, whoa.
Isn't it incredible?
Yeah.
One little moment for a vulnerable mind and some big stressor can cause some different wiring, some different trauma, and then that compounds. And then as an adult, it comes out in different behaviors and different thought processes. Isn't that fascinating? Like, I
Um,
had a similar thing. I went back to my parents and I said, oh, there was this moment that I felt really guilty and really shameful and rah, rah. And they were like, oh, we just thought it was something small. And I was like, no, I still to this day create this thought process about guilt and shame sometimes,
yeah.
um, that 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 this little 4-year-old or 6-year-old kind of played out this story, and like, part of me, when there'd be a conversation about bullying in school and that sort of stuff, it's like, I got a little bit of bullied. Yeah, I got bullied a little bit. There was, before I sort of knew more about mental health, like, as far as the bullying conversation, I would sort of think, well, listen, it's part of the animal kingdom, survival of the fittest. Everyone gets bullied a bit. It creates resilience, rah rah, and that sort of stuff. But I didn't have the understanding of actually that trauma to a young brain, how much that impacts future life, and so now I really think twice, and sort of I'm a lot more compassionate to that conversation, and understand that you can't eliminate it. It's part of human nature, but we must be right on it, because it can cause real damage to kids, and later in life.
And I always ask this question to a lot of people in the entertainment industry, because you've come a long way and you've obviously learned all this and had to go back and work on yourself in those sort of things. But then to go into a career where it's predominantly heavily judged for appearance, for looks, getting no's, and I suppose before you even knew, you've got these inner child demons, so to speak. And then on top of that, you're getting no's and you're getting kind of external validation, but then maybe wrong press and all that thrown at you, which then goes into your subconscious and then goes into self-doubt. So how have you navigated through all that on top of it all?
Well, I suppose my journey is like, why do I want, you know because there's lots of time between gigs sometimes if you're not working, or there's, as you said, it's a roller coaster. And often at times of crisis, I think to myself, why do I do this? What drives me? What honestly drives me? Um, and one of the things that I came to, and I realized as a kid, and being probably the youngest of three brothers, was attention. It would be these guys had come back from school, and they'd get all the attention, and I would just kind of want to be part of the family unit. But it was sort of like the younger kid is sort of, to be seen and not heard, or sort of on the exterior. So I would have to create a show, create, noise, and jump on people's shoulders, and often get in trouble for it. But it was me sort of being, and I was kind of born with some sort of sense of showmanship too. My grandmother was very similar, and no one in my family sort of has it, but for some reason I've got it. But there's definitely this need for attention, um, which which I recognised, and it was quite a confronting sort of conversation. This is or realization. This is probably younger in my 20s, and as I've got older, I don't need that validation as much, and it's that was sort of in my 20s. In my 30s, it became more of I mean. That was sort of acting, I suppose. I mean, TV and hosting, that sort of stuff became a job, and I was very fortunate, and I've got some great gigs, and it's how I make my bread and butter. But there still was this little bit of kind of look at me, look at me. Um, as I've got older, it's become definitely more about the craft. And as far as music goes, like I've always been a musician. That's how I started, and it was about the love of improvisation and the love of playing and the camaraderie and all that sort of stuff. So that attention thing has kind of dissipated. As far as the roller coaster and compounding the rejection and all that sort of stuff, I probably use drugs and alcohol, to be honest, to kind of to either keep up the adrenaline of working and not working, or if there was a problem or there was something I was confronted with, go out and get high, go out and have a drink, go out and have a party. And also, when if you've got a gig and you're making okay money or great money, and especially if that addiction, like there has been a bit of addiction in my family, and that sort of and I've definitely got that. So yeah, I would probably just if I was in a shit place, I'd get high or have a drink. So that's sort of been something that I've really had to come to terms with, and now. After kind of crashing and burning a couple of times, I've managed to wrestle that beast, and I've finally got a handle on it.
But you know what? I absolutely love these conversations, these hard conversations, because it's like what we see. And one of my things, like I always talk about, is disrupting social media, because as a human condition, like we say, we do judge whether it's good or bad. However, if you have not walked in a mile in someone else's shoes, like for us to sit there on a soapbox and judge someone like yourself who's on a show and just what we see in magazines or anything, and then actually I can't remember his name, but there's another actor, and I heard an interview with him the other day, and he said it best. He was like, he's just gone into the show Home and Away, and he was like, the first realization I had hit me that people weren't actually coming to see me, they were judging a character, they were coming to see a character. So I had a hard time, it was trippy, kind of disassociating myself, and then the mental health that can come with that, going, are they coming to see me? They're not. Then they're attacking me. Then the press is attacking me. But then it's a character and it's not based on me. And like, so getting to know the person behind the profession, I absolutely love, because you just never know.
Yeah, and someone has never taught that. Like someone has never taught how to psychologically deal with the press or deal with fame, and separate themselves from the two. I mean, part of me goes, listen, you signed up for it. This is part of the journey. You have a great job. You're doing what you love. I mean, there's no other profession that you can have a great job and do what you love, and you get a shitstorm from outsiders and a range of emotions, and kind of it's such a bizarre profession. But it's something you got to deal with, you know. I mean, I don't know how the big guys in Hollywood kind of do it. Like, I mean, I've seen what those guys have to, what what they have to go through, and it's something else. But that's part of the game. Something else I was going to say. Yeah, what was the question again? Just sort of disassociating yourself between the character and the profession. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. No one teaches you how to do that, you know, and how to deal with it. I remember when I first sort of got a public profile, I started in Australian Idol. A mate put me into that, and then I hosted a music show, channel video hits for Channel 10, and the first time I was like 23, 24, and I would get recognized. I'd be like, oh, this is cool. And kind of, it
Yeah.
would sort of, for the first 6 months, I was like, hey, they can jack me out, you know, I'm the shit. And then I started to get really self-conscious. Like if you'd go somewhere, all of a sudden people would look at you, or you'd go into a pub or a restaurant or a cafe or whatever, and people would look at you and sort of, you know, do these double takes or start sniggering. And I got really, really self-conscious. And I was smoking a bit of pot at the time too. So then paranoia would sort of start to compound, and that was a bad situation. And then sort of after a couple of years of it, I just got to the point where I would not look for it or try and not recognize it. But it did take practice just to live as a, you know, as to disassociate any of my sort of needs or insecurities or any of that sort of stuff, and just be normal. And I think as you get older, or for me, I can't speak for other people, but for me, as I got older, you know, that need to validation and those insecurities, they dissipate. And you know, as I become sort of, you know, I come in and out of work, it's as I said before, it's really about the work. It's not about I mean, the paycheck, you know, we all need a paycheck, but it becomes about the work and nothing else, you know. And the publicity side of thing is purely publicity, and it's not Axel Whitehead, it's a character, you know.
I think if there's one thing that I've learned, like getting to know a lot of you guys in the entertainment industry and everything, what I wanted to kind of disperse, because sometimes you'll get a question and go, oh, celebrity, what do they know? They've got everything. And I'm like, but guys, realize when you're not working, you're not getting paid. And if you don't get paid and you can't pay an agent, you're not getting a gig. And if you're not getting a gig, you can't get a publicist to get in events. And then I was like, you're quick to judge. This is what we need to be more mindful of, because it plays with everyone's like mental health. And then when it comes to kind of your story, and you openly spoke about it, one of the things that I loved hearing you say, you when kind of you got let go by Channel 10 back in the day, and you said, I went from the penthouse to the shit house, where I reached out to people and nobody was there for me. How was that, I suppose, in such a public arena, when you'd been at the height of fame, to suddenly people not even picking up the phone?
That was a harsh realization about the industry, you know. Um, uh, Everyone, you know, it's everyone's livelihood, but as soon as you're on the nose or not in favor, no one wants to be associated with you at all. And that was that was my first sort of taste of that, because I developed great relationships with publicists and record companies and a whole lot of people, and I would sort of reach out for a reference or to try and, you know, continue another project that I was working on, another show that I was pitching, and absolute radio silence. So that was kind of that was a sort of harsh moment. It's like, okay, so I had invested sort of my professional and my personal self in this arena, and it was a good lesson for me to go, no, I need to separate the two. This is my professional arena, and I can be personable and friendly and that sort of stuff, but make sure I have a life outside of that that is of value, and I have friends that I appreciate, and close to my family, and hobbies, and exercise and all that sort of stuff. Because that was a realization that you know, you can be hot and then not very, very quickly.
Yeah. And you introduced me to a good friend of yours back in the day, Ben Steele, who he also brought out a movie, didn't he? The Show Must Go On,
Yeah.
about mental health.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, did you co-produce that? Or you was a part of it, wasn't you? You was telling me.
No. I've been doing my own doco about mental health in the music industry, separate to his project. And we were 3/4 away through shooting just before COVID hit. So we're kind of waiting in Victoria, for everything to sort of open up a bit now, which is just about to happen. So we can, get to New South Wales and finish shooting it. But we hadn't included any conversations about COVID, obviously, because it hadn't happened. So now I'm kind of thinking we might have to go back and re-interview everyone we've spoken to about what this process has been like for them. Because, man, artists have been hit, like a hell of a lot of people, but, you run yourself as a business, and there's been absolutely no work unless you've got students to teach, or you've got savings, or you've got residuals, or you can somehow get on JobKeeper or Seeker. It's been a sweat. It's been really
Yeah,
tricky for
well,
a lot of
even for
people.
those people who said that they've never directly been affected by mental health, indirectly, then all of a sudden COVID hit, and now you're getting calls back going, my God, now I know what it feels like. Anxiety, panic attacks, depression, and it's just
Hmm.
changed the ball game out of the park. And like, the I don't get into politics very often, but when you see you see a mental
Oh,
health crisis going up, and you're like, you see a X amount of money going into certain things, and you're kind of like, yeah, what's happening on the floor? Like, if you actually split all that money up between people so they can pay rent, we might not need additional resources in certain areas for a phone call because people can't pay the rent. That's why the mental health crisis is going up. So let's maybe put some of that government money into every community and go, right, we'll cover. I don't know the logistics of it. It's just,
completely. Well, one positive thing that I think has happened is the mental health plan that the government have done. That now used to be able to have 6 free sessions, I think, maybe
yeah, it's
6 to
gonna,
8, and now it's gone to 20, and that's staying there, which is fantastic, which is
totally.
really, really great. Because I've got someone I see every now and again, and he said, "Listen, man, this for some people is the highlight of their week, is seeing their therapist at the moment.
Yeah,
Like, people are on their knees, and don't get me started with Dan Andrews. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I just hope to God that people can just hang on for a bit longer and stuff opens up. It's just been devastating, man. Thank God me and my missus, we moved to a country town, or just out of a country town up around the Macedon Ranges in Victoria. Um, and we got here sort of 3 or 4 months ago. So we've actually had sort of nature and a garden and veggies to grow and animals and all that sort of stuff, which has been our saving grace.
yeah.
But man, it's yeah, I'm kind of lost for words. Like, I don't know where to start with the whole thing. It's just absolutely brutal. Um, it's kind of, for people that have just been out of work. This is kind of, it's not a, I don't want to sound negative, but this is kind of what, like, artists go through, is like, you might be working, and then boom, it all goes, and you might be 6 months to a year out of a job. And then, it'll pick up again, hopefully. But yeah, it's brutal, man. That's what I was going to say. Actually, I was speaking to a friend in this local town, and she has a friend who works for a funeral company, and she said we're getting between 6 to 8 deaths locally a week that are all suicide and under 30 or under 40. You know, like, fucking wake up, protect the old people, protect the vulnerable. Fucking get on with it. We are losing people at an alarming rate. This is fucking bullshit.
Mm.
So anyway, that's how I feel about that.
No, I'm with you, mate. I'm with you.
Mm.
But going from Australia in the public eye to then making a transition to the US,
Mm.
how was that?
That was
What different?
that was a trip. It was like I was ready for a new challenge.
Mm.
I'd just finished my
You
home
found
and
it.
away contract. Hey,
You found it.
yeah. I didn't quite know what I was in for. I was really lucky to have a great agent and a great manager.
Mm.
And I didn't understand how lucky I was until sort of 6 months to a year down the track, and realized what other actors are going through and up against, and how hard it is to find auditions and how hard it is to get meetings. And I was managing to get great auditions and great meetings, and so I was really, really lucky there. It was, yeah, I didn't realize just how hard it was going to be. When you sign with an agent, you know, they're promising you the world, and, you know, we've got, you know, I was with UTA at the time, and that was Johnny Depp's agent and the Coen brothers, and we're like, oh, we'll get you to do this, and we're going to make you a big movie star, and, you know, we'll get you in here and get you in there. I'm just like, Jesus, this is sounding too good to be true. So you sort of get swept up in that. And then the reality hits, and it's like you're just another bare bum in the shower, just auditioning. And what was tricky that I'd never sort of been through was the audition process there. So, you know, you audition, you do the cattle call, then you get a call back, so you're down to the, you know, maybe the next 10. Then if you get through that, then you might meet the producers or the director or the showrunner. Then you audition again there, and then they take the final 3 or 4 to do the studio test, which is the big one where you sign a contract, and, you know, it's down to a couple of people, and then you audition there. I was like, geez, I've got to do like 4 or 5 auditions just to get the gig. And going through that process and getting to the studio test, you know, a bunch of times, but not getting the gig. After a while, that was like getting to a point where it's like, fuck, it was, yeah, it really, really smashes your mental health, smashes your confidence, but it's a numbers game, and that's what it takes, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of great actors, you know, it seems like, oh, they just moved over to America and people forgot about them for a few years, and they've popped up on a show, and look at them, they're doing great. But it is not like that at all. You know, the dream of landing and working, I mean, it happened to one of my friends. But I mean, take Chris Hemsworth, for example, and Liam. Like, they were busting their ass for 3 or 4 years, absolutely, you know, no luck, on their knees, you know, and just an absolute wreck of going, I can't do this anymore. And they stuck with it, and perseverance, and, you know, the rest is history. But it takes people, you know, you know, one bloke, it took 6 months. I saw other people, it might take 10 years. Like,
Yeah.
it's a hard sweat, and you just got to, you know, bite down on your mouthpiece and walk forward and keep throwing punches, you know.
That's if this campaign can like basically uncover that, so people just don't think it's as easy as what a highlight reel is. Because I always say to people, so if I worked in fitness, I'm going to predominantly post fitness things for a fitness business. If I'm an actor, I'm going to post red carpets and events because that's my job. So when
Mm-hmm.
people see these glossy pictures and they suddenly think, oh, that's the life, it's amazing. Behind the scenes, like you say, I think it was George Clooney that took maybe 15 years or something before he got his first gig, like his proper first gig on that, not
Yeah,
ER.
ER, I think it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's
And I mean, Morgan Freeman, I was watching an interview with him the other day, and it wasn't until he was like 55. Um, you know, Jack Nicholson was 39, 40. I mean, you know, men do come into their prime around sort of, you know, 35 to probably 55.
yeah,
Um, so it's a bit different for females to males. Thank God there's more roles, I think, around for, you know, women in their 30s, 40s, and upwards. But no, it is, it's hard, man. And, you know, and you might have a great grasp of this character and do a knockout audition, and they go, we loved you, but, and the other guy's got bigger muscles, or he's got brown eyes, or he looks a little bit more what they want. And there's a lot of stuff that's out of your control. And
yeah,
that's another thing that I had to learn, is when sort of back to that other point, it's not Axel Whitehead. It's I'm doing a character, and I wasn't right for that guy. It's not me. I've done everything that I've meant to, you know, I've rocked up, I've performed, I've done my work. But it's just wasn't my day. And once I made that kind of that transition and understood it like that, it became, yeah, a lot easier.
Well, I don't speak about this often, mate, but I was very fortunate and got invited to an Emmy event last time I was there, and
Gotcha.
yeah,
How'd you find it?
I was near, no, I wasn't. I had this guy come running through the crowds towards me, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, am I in the wrong place? I was like, am I going to get thrown out or something? And he actually mistook me for Simon Pegg. Do you know? Yeah. I was
That's
like, I
hilarious.
get between Simon Pegg and Ronan Keating, if you know him, the Irish singer. And I was
Totally.
like, I have no idea who you are, mate. And then he was like, oh, you're not. I was like, no. And apparently he was like a producer. I was like, shit, there we go.
Ah, there was the gig.
Like,
Totally. Oh,
well, I'll
brilliant.
be standing if I can get paid some cash. I don't care like that.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, man.
Oh, what a
Even
pisser.
there, like, I saw that side of things. I was fortunate, like I say, to go to this event. And I felt so out of place. And I saw everyone kind of schmoozing and talking and getting to know. And the person I was with, a good friend, was like, oh, you just have to get in there and talk to them. You've got like 10 minutes and da-da-da. And I was like, that's not me. I can't do that.
Mm.
So she said, just go and try. So I said, okay. I went to the bar for a beer. And I saw this one guy who was actually stood on his own. And I stood next to him and I was like, mate, how do you do this? I was like, I feel so uncomfortable. Anyway, got to know him, got to know he was just recently engaged. He was a musician. He was doing all this. And then the next minute, his fiance came over and he was like, oh, Glenn, this is Mei Lin. She happened to be the star of the night. And we talk all the time now. We swap numbers. We caught up the following day. And I'm just like, well, there you go. I was like, I can't do that kind of like, and I just
Isn't
take
it a
my hat
trip?
off to anyone in the industry that how hard it is. It's, it's
Yeah, I was just
working.
saying this to my fiance about 2 days ago. I was just like, this COVID thing has really brought it up, but I mean, any sort of business deal and any way to sort of create a name or further yourself, it's about relationships, you know, it's about, I used to be really good at it, but I've kind of slipped off and I've got a little bit lazy with schmoozing, working the room, keeping in contact with people. Like I used to really, when I was young and a bit more hungry, I would, you know, remember people's names, remember their kids' names, or even write it down in a little book and sort of, and do all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it pays off because you're in people's minds and you know, you've got to work the room. Um, it is, yeah, it's easy to be forgotten about too. I've been out of the scene for a little while. Year before last, I sort of spent the year in a hospital with back surgery, and then I was recovering last year, and it was a bit of a shitstorm. So I've sort of been out of the scene for a little while, and it kind of just it dawned on me just how important it is to be, you know, hustling, calling people, going to events. I am really lazy on social media. I haven't had my hustle about me. Yeah, you've just reminded me how I need a real good kick in the ass. Otherwise, I'll be back to pulling beers at the pub.
And there's nothing wrong with that, mate. There's nothing
No,
wrong.
exactly,
Especially
exactly.
where you are. It looks, well, it's a podcast, so anyone who's listening, it looks amazing.
Yes, I'm sitting out. We've got a little 4 acre block here, and I've got a little dam down the front. I've just put yabbies in the dam. We've got some fruit trees. We're going to get some chooks. We've got a dog. I've got
You
a.
might have to explain what that all means in English, mate. Yabbies and children.
Ah, ah. It's living the country dream. I grew up on a sheep and crop farm in the Western District of Victoria, about 3,000 acres, and being close to talk about. I mean, a remedy for mental health. The only place I feel really connected to myself, and I don't have, you know, as much anxiety or as much depression or as much of a need to fill the void with a dopamine rush of gambling or drugs or alcohol is nature. Nature to me is my savior, and part of the reason was to move out to the country was to have that connection. You know, I mean, we're an hour from Melbourne, which is easy, but to have animals, to get my hands dirty, to be close to birds and trees and that sort of stuff, I just feel so much more relaxed and centered, and can appreciate more things in life rather than being on the treadmill and just kind of running the whole time. Yeah,
Yeah.
this has been a great change and a great sort of upside to my mental health doing this.
I think you can
Yeah.
sense it when you've been through adversity yourself, like I have and all that. You can kind of pick up people's energy, and you just seem like mellow, mate. You seem like you're enjoying
Mm.
life.
Oh man, I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky at the moment. And it was funny. My fiance, she had moved. She had come over to visit me from the States in like February, late February, and by March it was locked down. She couldn't get back, and she was stuck here. And then we thought, bugger it, let's just get. She got a friend to pack up her flat. We're shipping everything over, and she's moved to Australia, and we've moved to the country and raising animals and living in nature. So
Oh,
it's something
wow.
we've always wanted to do. But not long ago we were on Venice Boulevard and Lincoln Boulevard in Venice in California, living on a really busy bloody intersection in a loud, noisy apartment block. Hustling, you've got choppers. I mean, anyone who lives in LA knows, if you don't have, if you haven't been to LA, you've got ambulances, you've got loud this, loud that, a lot of people with mental health issues making strange noises at night. It's a pretty full-on sort of lifestyle. And now to be staring at kookaburras and all that sort of stuff is
And you feel
beautiful,
like
man.
she's American.
Well, she's South African, but she's been in the States for 20 years.
And how's she
She moved over.
finding the animals and the farm life?
Loves it, absolutely loves it. She's always wanted to get back to nature. So the Australian culture is slightly different, that she's kind of recognised and adapting to. The lack of kind of speaking up, and she finds that Australians are a little bit more subservient. You sort of do what you're told, and don't upset the apple cart, and everyone's nice but doesn't really say how they're feeling. And that's been a sort of a perception of hers, which I find interesting. It's like, no, we're not. No, we're this, that, and the other. It's like, oh God, we are kind of.
You got to
Yeah.
pull back. So just got two quick questions for you, mate.
Yes.
One of them would be, what does being imperfectly perfect mean to you?
Having the courage to be yourself and speak from your heart. I think when we do, whether people judge you for it, there's going to be a whole lot of people that go, "Oh my God, that is so alluring, and so it's so relatable, and it makes me feel great, and it makes me feel that I'm not alone, and it's something that we can connect to on a visceral level that we all experience. And if we lead by example, we can create a healthier community. And um, and I, I, I just encourage everyone to speak from the heart, because even if, as I said, if someone turns their nose up or judges you, there'll be a dozen other people that go, "Oh my God, I feel that, and thank God you said that, because I don't have the confidence to reach out, or I feel like I'm alone and I'm the only one suffering." So I just encourage people to make that leap and to talk and to reach out. And we are not alone. We are a human species. We are all connected, and we all feel and go through struggles, and it's part of the human condition. So reach out and love each other and talk.
Love that. And I'm going to say it one more time, because I always say this in the episodes now, and it's because I've learned so much, and the people that have been brought to me. But you know what I heard was the quickest way to raise your vibration, to attract the right people and the right things in your life, is truth. Step into your truth. Boom.
Right. Boom.
I
That is
was like,
so
that hit me,
true.
like, that's so true. And the purpose of life, mate, when people think they've got their ultimate job or career and they go, "I found my purpose." Like, I initially thought it was this campaign. I'm so passionate about it, as you know. And I thought, oh, I found my purpose to serve people. And it got put to me. It was like, it's one side of your purpose, but the other side of purpose through life is to find out about you. That's why we're
Yes.
evolving. That's why we're learning, and obstacles, we learn them. And I was like, I've never been spiritual, and I say it in most of the podcasts now. Never been spiritual, always on the fence. I'm just like, whatever, what comes, and we'll see. But ever since I've started looking into more, working on myself, and then it's like, raise your vibration, step into your truth, just live unapologetically you. People
Mm,
judge you regardless anyway. So these hard conversations and stepping into that truth, and you start attracting the right kind of people, and then your life just so true.
That's great, man. Thanks for reminding me of that, because I've sort of uh, hit a bit of a crux. It's like in the entertainment industry, there's certainly in the acting thing. Part of it is sort of being nice and being polite, and you can do that, but you've got to keep your political views quiet. You've got to sort of create this sort of persona to an extent. And listen, we all have to do it in every profession. You've got your public persona and your private persona. But as for me, as I get older, I'm kind of going, fuck it. What you see is what you get. I'm going to stand in my truth. I'm going to say what I believe. It may, my income may depreciate because of it, but no, but not be callous and stupid. But yeah, speak your truth, and walk into it and embrace it, because that was a great reminder. Thanks, man, to
Mate, I'm
raise
full
the
of them now.
vibration.
I'm full of them.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm full of crap as well, but there we go.
We all are, man. That's beautiful.
What's next for you?
Get through COVID, get this documentary finished. I'm flirting with the idea of getting back to America, but I don't know, just sort of see what's happening in Australia. Trying other ways to sort of supplement my income while this sort of low period has been on. And get the hustle on, and hopefully the phone will call and we'll get back into it. Start playing some gigs, do some writing. See which way the wind blows. But in the meantime, loving the country and loving nature and animals. That's kind of, while I can, that's the focus right now.
Nice. And I know you're not big on social media, mate, but where can people find you?
Axel Whitehead, Instagram, and I've got a Facebook that I barely check. Axel Whitehead on Instagram. That's probably I post maybe once a month, man. Every agent,
Why not?
yeah, in every I've had a few different managers in different countries, and they're all like, get your numbers up, you've got to get posting, you've got to create stories, you've got to do this. And it's just a little bit of me dies inside. I just I can't get on board. And I'm sure elements of my career. Hey,
social media is a job in itself. Like when people
it is,
realize
man.
behind the scenes, this campaign, 9 social platforms, I was doing 2 posts a day. Like
Jeez.
all this time.
Really?
Every day for 2 years.
Holy shit.
On 9 platforms. And that's what I mean when people suddenly come, these big organizations and companies, and go, this is amazing, we want to collaborate. And I'm like, okay, but you guys are making all this money. Do you want to help us so we can put some money into programs and all this kind of stuff? And they're like, oh, we just want to collaborate because we think what you're doing is amazing. I'm like, do you actually realize I've got a full-time job? I also do social media twice a day, 9 platforms. I also network. I never knew you before, never knew the entertainment industry, never knew I just picked up the phone, asked you all, and somehow you all believed in this guy. Just going, yeah, and give me a chance. And here we are today. But still, mate, behind the scenes, someone once told me this, what you guys are always told, this perception thing. This is why I step into my truth, because someone said, this is so big and everyone on the outside thinks it's a huge organization. So you need a team out there and you need to do this. I'm like, that's not my truth. I like showing behind the scenes because it's in hard work. And it was like, oh, well, that's this industry and you need to get that from that, that from that, that from that. And I was like, that's not me.
Yeah, respect, man. Respect. Isn't it interesting when a brand kind of, I mean, yes, if you look at it from a corporate sense, there's brand awareness and there's alliances and there's ways to sort of further that. But there's also the grassroots element. And I think that you maintaining that integrity and showing that, and that is the driving force. That's a really beautiful, strong thing, and hats off to you again, man. Like, you're working your ass off and you are changing lives, and it's a beautiful thing. And I just hope that, you're attracting all that love and support is coming back to you too, because you really are, you'll be up for an Australian honour.
Well, mate,
some
I'm
big Australian award.
going to see me soon. I'm going to be the next Jay Shetty, and I'm going to be a monk. I'm going to go out in the wilderness.
Totally.
I'm finding my peace.
Oh, awesome.
But
Awesome.
I just want to say, mate, on behalf of myself, on the campaign, for everything you do and your advocacy and coming on, I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate everything you do as well. So for anyone
Thanks, man.
listening, guys, you can go to iHeartRadio or Spotify to find this episode. It will be out in the next 2 weeks, so I'll put all the links up to Axel. Bearing in mind, you might get a message or you might not back, but it might be on socials. But until
Yeah,
next,
no,
yeah.
yeah, I was going to say, make sure you send me the link so I can post it and get my
That'll be
hustle
your
on.
first post in like a year.
It will be.
But guys,
Awesome.
until next time, thank you, Axel, for being a part of the show, being a part of the campaign. Appreciate it.
Thanks, mate. Lots of love.